for another workshop from University Career Services in collaboration with Counseling and Psychological Services. The topic for today's workshop is anxiety management and job search tips for unexpected career transitions. And I will be one of the presenters. My name is Priyanka Raut. I'm a career counselor with UCS. And my co-presenter is Leah McCoy. Leah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. Thank you, Priyanka. I'm Leah McCoy, as she said, with the Counseling and Psychological Services, better known as CAPS for U of H, and I am a psychological counselor. I also want to remind everyone that's participating that we have a chat. And so if you have any questions throughout this presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat. We will have an opportunity at the end of our presentation to address any questions openly, but feel free to put them in the chat. We have a moderator there, which Priyanka will introduce shortly, and they will be addressing some of the work-related questions, and then I will answer any of the psychological questions.
Thank you, Leah. And as Leah mentioned, our moderator for today is another career counselor, Donna Justice. Donna, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Donna Justice, and as Priyanka was saying, I'm one of the other career counselors at University Career Services. So for the presentation today, if you have any questions, you can write them on the chat. And then if it's an appropriate time to ask a question during the presentation, I'll let Priyanka and Leah know, or we'll save them for the end.
Thank you, Donna. And just a friendly reminder that make sure in case you accidentally unmute yourself to please mute yourself back so that everybody is able to hear the workshop clearly. All right, so here is what we will be talking about today. A little bit about the services that UCS and CAPS has to offer. Then we'll jump into a self-exploration piece, which is a very important part of job searching. Talk about resume, networking, stressors, and channeling emotions. So the whole theme of this will be around unexpected career transitions. So you are in a phase where you're forced to make a certain change, and we're hoping to provide tips for you to how to manage that unexpected transition or change that you will be going through. So we'll begin quickly with the services that UCS has to offer. We're offering online services through virtual chats, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 1 to 4 p.m. You can access these through our website, and Donna will type the website link in the chat box. You can also schedule appointments, virtual appointments through Cougar Pathway, as well as RSVP for all our workshops and events. This is a list of our workshops that we have planned for the first session of summer. So we've already done a few, and our next workshop will be next week on virtual interviewing and navigating LinkedIn with demo. So make sure that you RSVP for these workshops through Cougar Pathway in order to receive the link. And finally, Cougar Pathway is the tool that we use to connect with you, to post jobs on campus, off campus, internships. You can upload your resume over here and then also see information about our upcoming events. Once we start the fall semester, all our events will be virtual as well. So subscribing to Cougar Pathway is your way to know what's coming up and RSVPing for all those events.
Counseling and Psychological Services also provides virtual sessions for individual and couples therapy. Our group therapy program will not run this summer in respect to COVID and is looking to resume in maybe a reformed way in the fall. But for now and in the fall, we will have virtual sessions available. So if you have any relationship concerns, anything with anxiety, feeling stressed, need a different perspective, we have a variety of services available that are virtual. In order to see and keep up with all of our virtual offerings, you can always go to our website, which is www.uh.edu/CAPS. And you can also give us a call for additional information. That number is 713-743-5454. I'm ready for the next slide. We will have, as you see on your screen now, is our June schedule for our Cougs Conquer series, also known as C2. These workshops are also virtual webinars that will be offered Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 2 p.m. each week. They will have a variety of different topics. So Cougs Conquer emotional roller coasters or Cougs Conquer racial trauma. That is part of what those series will be. This month, as I mentioned, is emotional roller coasters, racial trauma, and connecting with cats. And you can see there the dates that they'll be offered. Once we hit July, we will offer different topics and maybe repeat some of the same. We also provide a consultation service through our program called Let's Talk. It is virtual every day during the week, Monday through Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. That is a 15-minute consultation with a counselor where you can get advice or you can gain some perspective, or if you just need to know if this situation is something that warrants counseling or what counseling might be about, you can get that perspective or guidance from a Let's Talk counselor. So in order to get connected, just give us a call between the hours of 3 and 4, and we will connect you. Additionally, we are offering a suicide prevention training. You will see the two dates listed there. It's our QPR workshop. We offer this throughout the year, January to December. So they're always having QPR training programs. This one does require registration, but it is free. So there's no cost ever for any of our suicide prevention training. You just need to register for it. So if you would please just go to the website, look under our outreach tab, and it'll have instructions on how to register for those preventions. And then, of course, if you check our website again, you'll get additional summer offerings and QPR opportunities. Okay. And then what to do if you are in crisis. If you are experiencing a crisis situation and need to speak to someone immediately, then we want you to give us a call. Again, that's 713-743-5454, and you will be connected to the consultant on duty. We have counselors available during the business day that are available to talk to you whenever you need. However, if it is after business hours and you're in imminent crisis, you can either call 911 or go to your nearest emergency room, or you can give us a call and you will be connected to the after hours counselor. This is available every evening, 5 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next morning during the business week, Monday through Friday, on all weekends, all day, holidays, anytime the university or our offices are closed. So in essence, we have a 24/7 crisis support for any of your concerns.
Thank you, Leah. So before we begin, our hope is to help you walk away with some career transition strategies as you're navigating this uncertain job market, and also understand ways to manage your anxiety or the stress and to find effective ways to channel your emotions. Again, throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please engage with us through the chat feature of Teams. So every transition begins with acknowledging that a change is going to happen. And with every change, there is uncertainty and not knowing what's going to come next. Before we kind of learn how to address that, it's important to talk about what are some of the myths that are associated with changing careers or looking at something different than what you had planned. One of the myths over here is thinking that there is one foolproof way to change careers. So, as we all know, that there is no one successful method, whether it's for job search, choosing a major, or even when it comes to changing your career. It's something we navigate as we go. Personality tests, journaling, or reading a book are the secrets to success. So, if you feel that you are stuck and unable to change careers for a while, the answers you're seeking are either buried too deep within you or they're actually out there. So, many times it can be a combination of both. And what's happening right now is we are reacting to our perception of reality. And not really what the reality is. So, say for example, without focusing on the external situations, looking at your own self, if you think that, okay, I am a math major, but I'm really bad at money or money management, I would encourage you to rephrase your mindset and think, I'm not bad at money. I simply need to learn how to negotiate better or how to negotiate my salary. So think about ways to kind of rephrase those internalizing messages that you're creating. The other myth is you need to have everything planned out. So, the fastest way to find out what to do is to try what seems like it's a good idea. So, I would say don't put everything down on paper, actually start jumping in. So, if there is an opportunity for you to shadow someone, or if there is an opportunity for you to take a summer class, you can explore doing things like that. Sometimes the journey will determine the destination, and not always the destination will determine the journey, if that makes sense. And you can read more about these myths on the website. I have found this on the 7 biggest myths about changing careers. It was published on Glassdoor. Um, and then similarly, people think that, oh, I have to I have to earn money, I have to run my house, I have to meet my expenses. So changing careers is probably only for rich people. Again, that's a myth. That's not true. You need a degree to change careers. That is, again, a very big myth. If you find yourself thinking that you do need a degree to change careers, I would say research into it more, because there is always an alternate option. The other myth is you need to be a business genius to start a company. Don't let that lack of knowledge stop you. Instead, take that as an imperative to learn more about what things do you need to know that you don't know. So if you have an idea and if you want to start implementing it, talk to people, learn more new things. And the last myth is if changing careers doesn't work out, your life will be ruined. Which is again not true. Stay open, challenge yourself to learn new things, and put yourself out there. You will eventually be able to do something you find fulfilling. So, unless you put yourself out there, unless you plan for things to happen, you will not know if this is going to work out or not. And so, once you're aware of these myths, it's time to kind of start thinking and planning for that transition. So these are the steps that go into any job search process, including a job that you or a career path you're thinking of transitioning into. It begins by knowing yourself and then researching what's out there and finally planning the process and tapping into your network. So as we are kind of progressing through the rest of the presentation, think about what obstacles came up when you are trying to get to know yourself or learn more about yourself, and which career path to choose when preparing for a transition. Don't let your major really hold you down. And I really want you to start thinking and maybe taking notes for yourself, or feel free to share it on the chat as well. One of the important things about knowing yourself is really finding out your abilities and your interests. So, know what areas you may need additional training in. Think about, are there, any certifications that I need? Also, try to think, if you were working in a certain work environment, do you want to change? If you do want to change that work environment, what would you like it to look like? So create that ideal work environment or company culture, um, for you, and try to find where that exists. When you look at company cultures, you'll find a lot of information either through the company's website or by talking to people who are currently working over there. Also, knowing yourself, this is something I found in an article that was published by the Harvard Business Journal on reinventing your career in the time of coronavirus. So, this article talked about developing many possible selves. So, it talked about pursuing a diverse portfolio of options rather than sticking to just one. So, say for example, if you were thinking of a certain area, let's say into going into marketing, also think about what kind of what might go with it, other areas that you would be open to that are maybe similar or relevant to marketing. The article also talked about embracing the liminal period, and this was very interesting. And they described liminal as an emotional experience. So, liminality is of existing not fully or properly between the past that is clearly gone and a future that is still uncertain. So, to put in simple words, you know that you didn't like or you're forced to transition out of something that you did, and you are ready to make the next move, but you're not sure what that future holds for you, or you're uncertain what that move looks like. So, thinking about your skills, your environment, and the company you would like to work for will really help you kind of start digging a little bit more into that.
Another component of knowing yourself is knowing your limits. There are two components of stress. One, stress is a positive aspect of it, which means it can be utilized as a motivator. It can be the kind of the gas that get us going and propel us forward. You need that kind of stress to feel that drive or motivation to achieve tasks or goals. But if we have too much of stress, if it kind of goes beyond that beneficial usage, then it kind of goes into a more debilitating or paralyzing form of stress. And this is what most people talk about, right? This is what we feel the most because it has more of a negative impact. We usually don't talk about it as stress when it's motivating us, but it is the same thing. It's the debilitating side that we tend to think about. And what we have found is the reason most people experience that overwhelming nature of stress is because we're often trying to find a way to control events that might be outside of our control or to have power over people for which we do not have power. And so when we think about job searching or making a career shift, part of what comes with that, and I love the idea of the liminal period, is when you have something that is gone and then you have what's in front of you as uncertain, it can feel outside of your control. And the truth is, it is. And so part of how we manage that is understanding what we can do and what we can't do. And that is your limit, right? What are the moments that make you the most stressed out? And being able to recognize that, knowing that about yourself. So an example of that might be for me, if I have a lot of things going on campus, a lot of outreach or a lot of meetings, then my bandwidth to be able to take on new projects might be limited because I've already committed myself to a lot. And so knowing that allows for me to say, this is a little phrase I like to coin, and that's the power of a good no. I can't really utilize the power of a good no because we often think no is negative, and saying that to people if I don't fully recognize when my plate is full or when I've committed myself too much. So recognize those moments when you are the most stressed and allow yourself some reasonable breaks. And I want to feature this reasonable aspect. Sometimes we say, if I'm stressed, then I take my hands off of everything and I do nothing. That's not reasonable because we do need to still move forward if we're going to be successful in shifting our career. But if I give too much of a break, I won't do anything. If I don't give myself enough of a break, I'll burn out. So be aware and give yourself reasonable breaks. One tip for that is, how do you assess the problem? Take it and ask yourself this: is this really mine? Is this something that I have to deal with? If it is not about you, if it's not your issue, then leave it alone for now, especially when you're stressed. However, if it is your issue, if this is something within your control, then identify what it is that you can do now to change or address it. And then the other part is surrender, right? So trying to accept the situations that you cannot change. As it relates to the pandemic, we are powerless against it. So to some degree, wondering when it's going to end, when it's going to be over, just increases that debilitating stress. But what we can accept is, while I can't do that, here are some things I can do to keep myself safe. These are some things I can do in the meantime, in that liminal period, and commit to doing those things.
Great. And so, what you can do right now is, without waiting for the pandemic to be over and for, that ideal job market, let's start creating a resume and applying for jobs that are there out right now for which you're able to make those transition. And so we'll talk a little bit about resume and understanding how to navigate the applicant tracking system. So, customizing your resume, because you're making that transition, and even otherwise, we encourage students to customize your resume to keep it one page so that you're including only recent and relevant information. Now, this rule does not apply for people who have more than 10 plus years of experience. So, if you're bringing more than 10 plus years of professional experience, not including high school, then yes, you may have more than one page resume. Make sure the format is clean. If you need to, feel free to add coursework or projects, and not just class projects, but they could be projects that you have done independently as a freelancer, and you think that work will be helpful to showcase as you're preparing to transition or look at other options. Also, make sure that when you're talking about the work you did, you're using action-oriented words or verbs. So, for example, instead of saying, I was responsible for doing something, begin by using assisted with or conducted research on, trained new employees. So begin every sentence with a verb. Talk about your accomplishments, awards you may have received, scholarships if you were on the dean's list, or if you received employee recognition at your workplace. Always remember to tailor your resume to the job description. So the first thing when you see the job is to make sure you identify those keywords, and wherever you have the relevant skills on your resume, make sure to use those keywords on your resume. The applicant tracking system is a software that human resources use for organizing applicants. So the main goal is to simplify the life of a hiring manager. What it does is, after a recruiter's search, some applicant tracking systems will rank applicants on keywords such as the job positions or the skills, and filters based on location or education. So make sure when you're completing an application, you're not leaving anything blank. You fill out every part of the application. And here are some tips to navigate through the applicant tracking system. We cannot stress to use the keywords. So for example, if you're applying for a sales manager position, make sure to have the word sales and manage in there. Make sure to research the employer's website. So if they have certain values, they're reflected some way in your resume. If a firm has a professed interest in environmental sustainability, try to include relevant or volunteer work that you may have had in this field on your resume. Keep the formatting simple. If the formatting has too many objects or items on the resume, the ATS may not read the text in that item or that design. So try to keep a simple resume. You may have a little bit of a little bit of color or play around with the font, but make sure it's clear to read. And also do not ever lie or exaggerate on your resume. So make sure that you're honest in this job search process, even though it may seem difficult at the beginning. Just try to be honest from the front, up front, because this is also going to help you kind of confidently navigate through the rest of the application process.
So I recognize that there was a question in the chat. And so I'm going to probably try to address a portion of it. And then we will, at the end, maybe speak a little bit more in depth about how to ask. So one of the questions that I saw was having worked for 30 plus years at a job that maybe you hated but paid very well, and now not being at work or being out of work, not being sure how to figure out what's next and having that kind of discomfort in the liminal period. So first I want to say that that is very normal to feel frustrated or uncertain or a variety of emotions in a liminal feelings. And sometimes, depending on the day, might be a different type of emotion that you go, and it can feel daunting, right? So we're going to talk a little bit later in the presentation about those stressors and daunting. So I hope that we address some of that in here. But the other thing to do, I think, I remember reading a book when I was in college about the meantime, and I think the challenge of the meantime is it can feel so undefined, but you still have to live and operate in the world. And so part of what I want to encourage you to do is two things. One, as we think about both shifting our career and managing the uncertainty, part of what we want to do is manage that time. Can we identify any long or short term goals, things that we can do this week, next week, a month from now, today, 1 year from now that move us towards the intended goal? So I would say for the questioner, I would think about where do I and I know one of your aspects of the questions is not sure how to figure out what's next. And I think we'll speak to that. But once we identify what's next, so if that is getting another job because I need to provide for my family, or wanting to go back to school or take up something else, once we have kind of thinking of that end in mind, then we can kind of plan out goals to move us towards that end. You want to then prioritize those goals. What is most important today? This may also be with respect to the needs. So if what is most important is providing for my family, then that might determine that next step, right? So what do I need to do to achieve what is priority? And then what are things that can be a little bit, could be done over time? Use a time inventory. By that I mean, when we think about the liminal period, we think about the career shift, or we apply to jobs all day, that can actually reinforce the frustration and negativity that we might feel in the space. So chunking it out over time. So I'm going to devote 2 hours a day to searching, researching, understanding what's out there. And then I'm going to take a break. And then I might do another hour of actually applying to jobs. And then I'm going to take a break. And then I might spend another opportunity at looking at what are some other careers available. Maybe I've done 30 years, but I didn't like those 30 years. So, what are things that I liked about what I was doing? What are the things I didn't like about what I was doing? And those things that I didn't like, why didn't I like them? That kind of speaks to that knowing yourself and what environment works well for you, what you enjoy, and using that time to adequately kind of look at those things to help create a strategy for your next steps. Schedule some of your daily activities. I am not really a morning person. I thrive anytime between after 10 to maybe 2 a.m., truthfully. Like that is really my most alert time. So I'm not going to schedule really heavy laden things at 7, 6, 8 in the morning because I'm not my best. And so knowing myself knows that if I need to do any kind of research or prepare anything or do an outreach, I need to do that when I'm at my best. So, learning which is your best time to complete a task and how much time each task will require will help you to schedule appropriately. Now, this is my favorite part: is schedule time for rewards and relaxation. Sometimes we get into this unhealthy mindset that the only way I'm really being productive or the only way I'm going to be successful is if I work all the time. Like I've got to always be doing something. But the challenge in that is that it doesn't work, not even for machines. Our batteries in our cell phones die down, our computers can overheat, and it's really this idea or concept that anything running consistently wears out faster. And our mind and our emotions are no different. So if I'm constantly trying to busy myself or find the solution or ask without really taking a moment to enjoy the sun or taking a moment to enjoy a nice cup of tea or a conversation with a friend, then I'm going to burn myself out. So if I've done my 2 hours of research, reward yourself. Like pat yourself on the back or get up, go outside, get something that you enjoy eating, a fruit, a snack, just something to kind of reward yourself and remember to relax. This will also assist in avoiding procrastination. One of the biggest contenders for procrastination is burnout. We just have done so much, we cannot find the energy and motivation to do anymore. And so, because we don't like that feeling, we avoid it. And so, if we can give ourselves good time management and rewards and relaxation, then we should see an impact on the way that we procrastinate. One other tip I will say, even for shifting careers, is sometimes applications take a lot of time. And so we can kind of want to avoid the work of having to come up with the answers for those questions. So, one of the things I like to recommend is having like a Word document where some of these questions are similar, some of them are very different, but you spent all the time really crafting a nice, articulate response. Save it. Save the question and your response. That way, you know your spell check is done, you know your grammar is done, and you know you've got a certain number of words. And then when you come to these different applications, if there's a question that is similar to one you've already encountered, then it's much easier to copy and paste and do minor edits than it is to have to try to rethink about it again and come up with something. And then you're like, what did I say the last time I answered something like this? So it just allows you to cut down some time. So I don't know that that addressed all of your questions about the liminal period, but I think as we go, we will eventually get to most of it.
So, one of the most important aspects we would like to focus on today is the networking piece. Networking has been rated as the number one effective job search technique. So, which means that talking to people, engaging in conversations, interacting with people to figure out best ways you can position yourself for a certain position are ways you can make yourself more marketable. And so building and maintaining those relationships is very, very important today more than ever before. And so, as you're thinking of transitioning, think about who are those people whose jobs you've always admired. This is really a time for you to think outside the box. And this is an opportunity that has come across unexpectedly, but it is also an opportunity for you to really think about what is it that I'm interested in? What is it that I've always felt fulfilling to do in my career? Of course, when we are making a change, we do have to realign our expectations that we've had, a certain set of expectations that we may have had for when you're about to make this transition. And so, start talking to people. Make the most out of planned or unplanned meetings. If you have a stash of business cards collected somewhere sitting in the corner of your room, take those cards out. Start reaching out to those people because people are still hiring, companies are still hiring, recruiters are still interviewing. There are online orientations that are being conducted, online trainings. So focus on the positive and what is out there and pick something from what's available that fits well with what you like. These are some ideas of whom you can start reaching out to. If you do use LinkedIn, University of Houston has a LinkedIn page, and you can see all alumni who have subscribed to that page. So you can see detailed information about where they work, what types of um, jobs they are in, what major did they have at UH. And so that's a great way to start connecting with fellow Cougars. Um, LinkedIn is obviously right now like the most relied on networking tool when it comes to professional networking. So make sure that your LinkedIn information is up to date. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a workshop next week that's kind of going to walk you through LinkedIn and provide a demo. So make sure to RSVP for that. We can also work one-on-one with you to update your LinkedIn profile. Here are some examples of how you can kind of get your LinkedIn moving a little bit more. It's just like Facebook. You're engaging with people by liking their posts, by posting pictures, by sharing things, recipes, and other news. And so the same way, try to engage yourself in LinkedIn. You can write, you can like people's comment posts, you can share posts, you can share articles, you can comment. And most importantly, try to reach out and connect with people. Every time you send a message to someone, LinkedIn allows you to customize or tailor that message. You do have a 300 character limit, word limit, but make sure that you are tailoring that message and really making an attempt to connect with people. You can start with anyone you feel comfortable from this list. But we're going to talk a little bit later on in the presentation about reaching out to people you haven't or your dormant network, as they call it. So, oh, that's the slide is right here. So try to work on your dormant ties. So these are relationships with people who you were once close to, but now haven't been in contact with for roughly 3 years or more. So I found this helpful tip again in the same article on reinventing your career. And so I thought that this was really great because if you have, little work experience or no work experience, but you are trying to venture into a completely new field, a new career path, find those people that may already exist in your network and reach out to them. And try to keep your messages and emails short and to the point. You may also use this opportunity to conduct informational interviews. So these are interviews where you schedule a time to meet with someone and engage in a conversation about what their job looks like, what skills, additional skills may be needed for you to upgrade your skill set, or how can you best position yourself in that industry? What are some of the entry level positions that you can start looking at? This really helps you prepare yourself for a new unknown area, and at the same time, also gives you this opportunity to learn more about that area and kind of build up your confidence and knowledge base. Um, Try to, whenever you're reaching out to people, try to make the messages personalized. So for example, if you know them, try to if you've met them before, try to remind them where was the first time you met them. um, and reaching out, so that's something I put in red, because if you apply for a position and if you do not hear back from the recruiter, if you do have their contact information, feel free to follow up within a week of applying for the job. So if you applied for a job today, next week on Thursday, send them an email or call them to check the status of your application, if they have received it, and if they need any additional documents from you. Also, if they do not respond to that email or that phone call, wait for another week and follow up again. It's absolutely okay to reach out to someone 2 times or twice. Um, After your second follow up, if you're not getting any response back, feel free to let it go, because we do not want to cross more boundaries and be unprofessional. And talking about being professional, always address people by their names. Do not use slang language or abbreviations. And always use proper email etiquette. Have an opening sentence, address the hiring manager, and have a closing sentence saying thank you, sincerely, or whatever you want. And so we'll talk a little bit about the stressors as we're navigating through these different ways of or different methods of job searching. So Leah can share her insight on some of these.
Sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, like that liminal or in the meantime space can feel daunting because it is truly outside of our control and it's so uncertain and unknown. And most people have a difficult time navigating the unknown because you just don't know. It's like a black hole, it's absent. But these are known, these kind of feelings, that pressure as stressors. And part of what I have found in looking at job searching and looking at shifting your career is being able to understand how to navigate that, what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. And I think those tips that Priyanka has already shared about reaching out twice and making sure you do your follow-ups and working your networking are great ways of diffusing that pressure because it moves kind of those thoughts and feelings into action. Now, to navigate the discomfort of not knowing the progress of an application, I like to really think about kind of siphoning off your identity from the application. A lot of times when we apply for career opportunities or different organizational things or making shifts, we tend to say, please choose me. I hope they pick me. I hope they want me. And all of that is right. You are the person that will be doing the job. However, from a company's perspective, they're not really looking at you. They're looking at the skills and the education that you have that make you a great candidate. And so, what you're really doing when you apply is sending out what I want to say are like invitations. These are invitations that are inviting you to then have an opportunity to have a conversation to explore this job experience further. And so, an example of that is if I was trying to do some kind of home improvement project and I got several companies to come in and give me a bid on the work that I need done. I'm not looking at the company trying to decide who I like better. Do I like this company? Are they nice? Are they friendly? Are they kind? I'm really trying to say, here's the work that I need done. and are they the best suited given their skills, their education, and what they're going to be able to provide me? Are those a good fit for the work that I need done? So being able to separate your identity a little bit helps you to not feel it so rejecting or so personal. It's just the more invitations that I send out, so the more applications I put out, the more networking I put out, the greater my opportunities for being invited for a conversation go up. So that can be another way of addressing those stressors. Instead of sitting in it, we take those feelings and move it into action. And if we're going to move it into action, right, and we're going to balance out that debilitating stress, then we need to focus on the positive. It is really easy to fall in a rut or a trench of only seeing the negative. And this is how you'll know if you're in that rut. If you say things like, oh my God, no matter what I do, nothing's ever going to change, or I have applied and applied and applied and I'm never going to get a job, or I'm so tired of looking at my screen. It's just not, there's no point in it. It's useless. It's worthless. Then you're already starting to have the language of a rut. Okay. So you want to be very mindful of those negative mindsets and those negative words that we just kind of rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. Because what that really does, I'm sorry, is it adds to the stressors and the pressure that creates more of that debilitating stress. What you want to do is make an effort to replace those negative thoughts with positive ones. So, an example of that might be, wow, I got 5 applications this week, or man, my research led me to finding some really cool companies to explore further, or companies that I want to keep on my radar. And I think another aspect of what I like about LinkedIn is you can follow some of these more popularized companies in your LinkedIn profile. So let's say you find a company and they don't have a position that works for you now, but you like their values, you like their mission, you like the industry that they serve, and you're interested in them. You can kind of keep up with them and flag them or tag them or add them to your favorites. That is a positive moment or a positive action that can help you feel more inspired about this journey as opposed to defeated by this journey. The other thing is to be mindful of positive moments. And positive moments can be little things like birds chirping. The other day I was doing some case notes outside just to change my environment, and I saw 2 or 3 different types of butterflies that were kind of fluttering around in the backyard. And I noted to myself, I don't usually see butterflies in my backyard. And so it was just nice to kind of sit there and watch them flutter about. Those are positive moments, because the more we infuse our process with positivity, the better able we are to tap in to that healthy stress that keeps us motivated.
And so we can channelize our feelings or the worries or the stressors in a more positive way by, and here are some ideas. So maybe by putting in more applications. Um, so if you feel like, oh, there are no jobs out there right now for me to apply, come to a career counselor. We can help you find jobs that you can actually apply for, or try to do that research on your own. Try to see what are the options that are there for me right now, and have I made sure that I have taken advantage of all these options and resources available to me. Also, make sure you're staying relevant. So, again, keep updating your LinkedIn profile if you receive any additional trainings. Um, be aware that we cannot change the situation around us, but we can change how we interact with the situation. So, definitely, take this time to kind of really focus on things that you can do and you can control. This is a great time to also rely on your faith and spirituality, or even on meditation or visualization activities, because this is really going to help you kind of stay on track and put in the work that's going to produce results. Also, make sure that when you are networking, you're making connection with people that really matter to you, and from whom you're going to learn. So don't keep it in your head that I'm reaching out to this person because I need a job, because that's not the first thing you really need right now. What you need is information and knowledge about that area or that industry in order to prepare yourself to apply for a job there. So, you can also study about the areas you're interested in. So you have, things to talk about or share during your informational interview. Also, if you have to take up a part time job during the day, think about taking up side jobs that you really care about, or think about volunteering, and just thinking outside the box. This is also a very challenging time for a lot of international students on our campus, those who will be graduating. This is a great opportunity for you to think outside the box. Think about what are the other different industries where I can apply my major. Have you thought about the nonprofit industry? Have you thought about maybe working for the university? Um, I've seen a lot of people also work on nights or on weekends. People take up part-time courses. They're just trying to expose themselves to the things that they have ever felt something that they were interested in. And at this point, I also want to say that if you're not sure what you're interested in, so if you would like to learn more about yourself, Career Services offers a free assessment. It's called Focus 2. And Donna, will you please share the link on the chats for everyone to see? So you can take that assessment, and it really helps you narrow down your work interests, look at your personality and your values. Obviously, this assessment is not magic, so make sure when you're answering the questions, you're being really open and honest. And try to take it when you are by yourself with not a lot of people around you trying to influence you to answer a certain way. So, these are things that you can start doing now to really get a good sense for what that next step is going to look like for you.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. The other thing to do is I also want to talk about what helps us manage the emotions that may come up as we're moving into action. And so there's a tendency to tend to bottle up our emotions or to stuff them or to stay silent because it feels so frustrating and so stressful. But that actually bottling up the emotions increases the frustration and stress. What we have found is the brain does not process the information that's internalized in the same way that it processes things that come through our eyes or our ears. So, another helpful tip to making it through the liminal phase is really two things. These next two slides will talk about it. One is engaging a friend or family member, teacher, or clergy, and even a therapist who can kind of help you see where you are in a different light. So, a different perspective, maybe provide some insight that you weren't for whatever reason considering or able to come up with on your own. So talking about it really helps. The other aspect is that we gain knowledge through the knowledge of other people. So being able to access the resources that might be right there within our social circle can be a part of networking as well. And then sometimes journaling. So putting these problems on paper can help you to clarify a situation or to begin developing a different perspective within yourself. I will also say if you find that it's difficult to move forward or difficult to kind of really do some of that brainstorming or figuring out the next moves, having a therapist, certainly us at CAPS, give us an opportunity to kind of help you walk through that. brainstorming and diffuse some of those emotions or anxieties or fears that may come up. Because a lot of times we also find that we can become very self critical. So don't be afraid to talk it out or write it out. And if you need us, we are here for you. And you can go to the next slide, Priyanka. The other aspect is getting emotional support. And so it really does take a village to make it through a lot of things in life. And so identify those people that can serve as a support group. They can also help you not only to navigate the negative feelings, but to have positive moments, have memories, have breaks, and to help kind of keep us encouraged along the way. The university has several registered student organizations. Communities have a lot of organizations, so feel free to get involved and start building your emotional support team.
Well, and we would like to end by saying that when it comes to reinventing your career in this time of crisis, remember that the time to get going is now. So don't wait for something to happen. Start acting now on your plans, on your ideas, and don't do it alone because you have counseling and psychological services, university career services, and many other services at your disposal at the university. So we're here to support you and we want to help you. So thank
There's,
you for, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I just want to thank everyone for taking this first step to attend this workshop and take in all this information. And yeah, if you all have any comments or questions, we're here.
I wanted to also address the resource about how to figure out your next move. So we had already commented about the Focus 2 resource, and please feel free to look at that link and take that. There's also another resource called mynextmove.org, which can kind of also help you explore some questions to kind of give you some thought about what to do next. So I wanted to be sure to add that as a resource.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Leah, and thank you, everyone. If y'all have any questions, please feel to type them in the chats, and please leave your feedback for us. Donna has put a link for a survey. It may also it's all the link is also in the email that you received this morning from us. So please let us know your feedback, and thank you for attending today.
Hey
Yes, thank
Priyanka,
you.
quick question. A lot of the comments were if they could get a PDF version or the presentation emailed.
I
Sure.
think it might be, oh, go ahead.
No, Leah, what were you gonna say? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I really like the resource that you put in terms of your YouTube channel so that they can always go back and refer to this presentation. Because a lot of what you might see in the PDF may not be the substantive portion of what you heard. So if you're really wanting kind of that material, I think you put in the YouTube channel for the Career. I just want to encourage them to go there and look at the different offerings that you have there and our websites. Have a
I
lot of
will
that.
agree with that. Yes.
Okay, I think that's all the questions.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.